Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. I'd like to extend my gratitude in you listening to this podcast. It means everything to me, and I hope it is clear that this subject matter is so important to me. I care about our people, our future, and making a positive change in this nation.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen. Welcome. And today we have another solo episode for you. There are some interesting topics that I want to get into with you. Before we get started, I acknowledge the city of St. Louis, my city. We experienced record rainfall that went up to 12 inches this week, and a lot of people were affected in a negative way. And I just want to extend thoughts and prayers to everyone dealing with a lot of tragedy and damages that were felt and resulted in the weather that we experienced. The rain actually caused flash floods to occur in a lot of the St. Louis metropolitan areas, and a lot of damage has occurred. So thoughts and prayers to everyone dealing with that, and shout out to our first responders who acted quickly to rescue people and assist people. And there are many resources out there if people need it, and I will share that information with you guys. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen. Welcome. And today we want to get into a few stories that need your attention. First, there is a story about an unarmed 13-year-old African American who was paralyzed after being shot by the Chicago police. Next, there is a new foot pursuit policy that will be going into effect in August, also in Chicago, that I do want to share with you. There's a discussion on whether this would make a difference in these police matters, and particularly that shooting involving the 13-year-old that happened in Chicago. Also, we want to share with you a petition surrounding the incident that occurred at Sesame Place. I know you all saw the video with the Sesame Street performer ignoring the African American children. And so people are very upset about this matter, and there is a petition. So if you want to share your voice and express concern for this incident, you can participate in this petition. And so I will share that with you in those details. Lastly, I do want to share about the last two former officers convicted on the federal charges in the death of George Floyd. They were both sentenced to prison terms this week, and so we will share those details with you. All right. So this first matter about the unarmed 13-year-old, this occurred in Chicago, and it occurred back on May 18th, earlier this summer. And so what occurred is that the police officers went to pursue a 13-year-old who had bailed out in a suspected stolen vehicle and ran past them. The other officers were also in pursuit of the young boy, and so Noah Ball believed that the suspect was pointing a weapon that turned out to be a cell phone. And so in a split-second decision, he made the decision to fire 3 rounds at the 13-year-old. So as a result, the 13-year-old is paralyzed and is now filing suit. There is an investigation underway, and so we will see what happens with this matter. There is a video of the incident. It occurred right in front of a gas station. I won't share that with you due to the graphic nature, but it is out on CNN and several places online to actually watch the video of the shooting. In the video, also, which is pretty shocking, that he's unarmed. They, as he lays on the ground, they drag him from the ground to a spot away from the pumps, as to, I guess, in concern of the explosion may erupt from the gas pumps. They weren't sure if the shots had fired into the gas pumps. But the way that they dragged him from the spot on the ground to the other spot on the ground was very abrupt and showed no care. The attorneys for the 13-year-old actually compared it to being dragged as if he was a rag doll. And that is shown on the video as well. They literally just grab both his legs and drag his body across the ground. And so definitely feel that he has potentially a successful lawsuit on his hands. So we will stay with this and provide updates to you, as we should have some additional updates in this matter soon. Another interesting fact in this case is that the officer who fired the shots did not have on his body camera. However, the other officers around had theirs on. So that's how it was captured. And the attorneys are taking issue with that because it appears that he intentionally did not release his camera to be activated, which is a part of their protocol. And he did not respond in that manner. So that's another issue. But the large issue in the matter is that he mistaken the cell phone of the 13-year-old for a weapon, because he actually yells out, he has an effing gun and all of this here, when he does not. He did not have any weapon at all. So you're shooting down someone that is unarmed, and these things just keep happening. Okay, and so that takes us to the next piece that we wanted to talk about, was this new policy that they're unveiling in Chicago, a new foot pursuit policy. So in June, the Chicago Police Department released its long-awaited new policy on foot pursuits. And this is a month after this 13-year-old being shot, paralyzed, and then even a year after the police shooting deaths of 22-year-old Anthony Alvarez and 13-year-old Adam Toledo, who were involved with foot pursuits with the police. And you may recall the incidents of those cases where those young men were gunned down by the police after a foot pursuit. So with this policy, the officers can only engage in a foot pursuit if there is a valid law enforcement need to detain the person that outweighs the dangers of the pursuit. Other factors in determining whether to initiate a chase include containment of the area, saturation of law enforcement in the area, helicopter unit support, and more. And so when determining if the most appropriate tactical option, the safety of the department members, the public, and any person being pursued is the primary consideration. So that's what the new policy is supposed to do. So they don't make these split decisions and just, these cowboy type of reactions that we've been seeing, where they just hastily make these decisions. They're just hastily firing shots into a police building, like the Breonna Taylor situation. No regard for all of the other residents in the building, just blindly shooting in or storming into someone's house without a warrant because they're just fired up and upset. As a police officer, you have to have control. You're there to protect and serve the community, and there's a certain code you have to follow. You can't just hastily react. And so perhaps this policy will help the ones that have gotten out of hand, as we've seen many that have gotten out of hand. So, do we think that this is the type of police reform that is needed? Maybe other cities can adopt this type of policy. All right, moving right along. Want to talk about that issue with the Sesame Street performer. I know we all saw the video going around on Instagram. I know I did, where the Sesame Street performers are coming down the parade, and when they get to the African American child, they put up their hand and say no. And so what happened is that on Saturday, July 16th, Jody Brown, along with her friends and family, went to the Sesame Place, a children's theme and water park located on the outskirts of Philadelphia. They were very disappointed and outraged after experiencing racism. Jody's daughter and niece, who were both African American, were in line to be greeted by the character Rosita, and Rosita went down the line giving high fives and hugs to other children, other white children, but deliberately waved and said no to the African American children when she approached them for their high five. So the video depiction clearly demonstrates not only the character's verbal denial of the young girls telling them no, but they also show a hand gesture of no, making it perfectly clear that the intention of the performer was not to engage with the young girls. So it was hoped that this was an accident and it was not racially motivated. However, a second video showed up where another African American child was ignored by the Rosita character. And this has strengthened the belief and the cause that this was an incident of racial discrimination. And so if people want to participate and join in to express their concern and outrage in this matter, you can go on to www.change.org to sign this petition. It's out there with Demand Sesame Place and parent company SeaWorld hold their racist employees accountable. But you can just search Sesame Place and it'll come up on change.org. So I'll put the exact link out on the details of the show episode. So if you want to make your voice heard on this matter, you can do so. And then I want to go into this last story with you about the last two former officers convicted in the George Floyd death. They were sentenced this week. And so I did confirm the pronunciation is J. Alexander King and Tao. They were convicted on federal charges. And so former Minneapolis police officers J. Alexander King and Tao were sentenced by the U.S. District Court Judge Paul Magnuson in back-to-back hearings. Now, King, who was a rookie cop at the time of Floyd's death, sentenced him to 3 years in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. In a separate hearing, Magnuson sentenced Tao, who had been a 9-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department at the time of Floyd's death, to 3.5 years in prison, also followed by 2 years of supervised release. Now, let's see. King, who was 28, and Tao, 35, were convicted by a federal judge back in February, along with their former police colleague, Thomas Lane, who was 39, and he received his sentence last week of 2.5 years in prison for violating Floyd's civil rights. The federal prosecutors had asked for a sentence of 6.5 years, which was the max. All right. Now, all three men were convicted using the color of the law or their positions as police officers to deprive Floyd of his civil rights by willfully being indifferent to his serious medical needs. Also, Tao and King were convicted of violating Floyd's right to be free of an unreasonable seizure by willfully failing to intervene to prevent Chauvin from applying bodily pressure to Floyd. So, the fact that they did not intervene on Derek Chauvin being the center of the incident, if you will, that is an additional charge. So Derek Chauvin, who's for more than 9 minutes on May 25th, 2020, outside a Minneapolis convenience store, pinned George Floyd under his knee. So that was part of the charge. Chauvin was sentenced previously to serve 21 years in prison after pleading guilty in December to violating Floyd's civil rights and admitting that he kept his knee on Floyd's neck even after he became unresponsive. And Chauvin also pleaded guilty to depriving a then 14-year-old boy of his constitutional right to be free from the use of unreasonable force by officer. So, yeah, we wanted to share those details with you. That George Floyd incident was just such a horrible event, and I'm just glad that the family can finally get some closure and justice for the actions of those officers. They definitely need to be held accountable. As we mentioned, the episode today is about accountability in policing. So definitely need more of that. And we will share these stories because it's so important to be aware of this, because it can happen to me. It can happen to you. It could be my brother, your husband, my husband. It could be all of us. So we definitely need to be informed of what the matters going on and our rights also. Shout out to people who have left some comments on the last week's story, the one about Brandon Carroll. Definitely will be providing updates on that. Had opportunity to participate in a discussion room on Clubhouse about that story. That young man is a member of a fraternity, and so a lot of members of the Divine Nine came together to have a discussion on Clubhouse to talk about how we felt about the matter. So that was pretty cool to do that. And yeah, I will keep you guys informed. Woke by Accident podcast. That's what we do. So again, I thank you guys for listening. As always, reach out if you would like to participate or be a guest on the show. We would love to chop it up with you. If you have something to share, a book, or even if you just want to go over stories with me, definitely love to have someone to interchange and exchange conversation with. So we'll definitely would entertain someone if they would like to be a guest on the show. Reach out on our social media and we can have that conversation. So again, we thank you for listening and take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms, and please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.